in the spot to do that, or is that gonna be tough? Just do the best you can. It's I'm okay.
And we can move this down a little bit if we want to really. If you can't hear us, let us know.
Well, if you need a recap of what we talked about, just say that. We'll just give you a couple bullets to write down. So, all right. Well, there it is. All right, that's it. No, it's all good. We're just about to get going. So, I guess we go and call the meeting to order. All right, 5:32. So, I guess let's take roll call. Alexis.
Jim Zarski.
Yeah, here.
Michelle Gazaric. John Hoffman.
Here.
Patrick Pape.
Here.
And Matt Hoffman. And then Lisa is absent.
And then Patrick Williamson.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I said Miles' last name for you, I think. Sorry about that.
Any feedback on the agenda, or maybe we have a motion to approve it?
Move to approve the agenda as written.
Second from Joan, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right. Well, all in favor, Miles, on the agenda. And anybody on for public comment?
Let's see, we have an attendee here. Oh, and then I'm gonna make Alex a presenter, so he's part of our water presentation.
Okay, yeah, he's on for.
Yeah, we'll introduce that whole crew when we get to it.
Okay,
So
all
I
right,
don't really need to worry about it, but I'm just gonna make him a presenter so he can't talk in this thing.
Perfect. So then no public comment?
No public comment.
Okay. All right. I guess we're on to you, Alexis, on the council liaison.
All right, well, not a whole lot of updates, but.
Or no, town staff.
Sorry, it's been a while since we've been here. We're both saying things wrong. It's okay. So just wanted to provide an update on the rebates through Energy Smart. I know that you all did see that those are changing this year, but I wanted to make sure that everyone also knew that we spent all of the money that we had allocated towards them last year. So that's very exciting. They gave out $20,000 of rebates to Superior residents specifically.
That's wonderful.
So yeah, that's really great. And Energy Smart has changed what they are doing next year to income qualified only. So Superior residents will still be able to receive those through the county. But we are talking with DRCOG and others to see if we can use what we had allocated this year towards other non-income qualified rebates, just to make sure that they're as accessible as possible. All right.
Furnace bag.
Oh, cool.
Ends up with a furnace and heat pump.
Nice.
Even when it died, and you were able to
Just
get it.
barely.
Okay. That's amazing. Great story.
Thanks,
Yay.
Good. So I just want to make sure that everyone also saw that email about those changes, and just know that I will provide an update when I have more news about what we're going to do with the allocation from this year's budget for that. The ACES work plan will be going to council next Monday. Jim has agreed to go to help represent, but of course, the more the merrier. So if anyone else would like to go and talk about the work plan or answer questions, if council has them, that will be on the agenda for Monday.
Yeah, I'm planning on being there anyway because of the 88th Street development session. Most likely. So I can get you some.
This is a Harris property.
Yeah.
Well, do we know roughly when they would, they're just like the agenda?
It's on the agenda. I can try and get you an
Just get there
like,
at 6.
Okay.
But it's not getting to the clock.
no, I think it's near the beginning, but I can send you. Did you see the agenda?
I did.
Okay.
I think I.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. I think it's near the beginning.
okay.
So. And then I will be going to council on the 26th to talk about the energy code updates and the EV updates that were presented to ACES in October. So.
Do you support on
I don't think so. I don't think it, I hope it's not gonna be super controversial.
Yeah, it's just pretty much accepting it or.
Yeah, we haven't presented to council at all, so, we need to present the whole package. So
So are you looking for an approval at that night, or is just more of a general presentation on what you're recommending?
it takes 2 readings to approve. So, if they like it and don't have any changes, then it would be approved at the following meeting. Yep. But we will talk about that it was presented to ACES and we incorporated feedback from this group.
Awesome.
And then the last thing is just about compost at town facilities. Some of you may remember back when A1 made those changes to not accept paper products of any sort, that we ended up pulling them out of most of our facilities in the back of house. And for resident facing, just because without those pieces, there really wasn't a lot of compost, especially with Serendipity leaving the community center here. But we have added it back in the back of house now, at town hall and here. So that's exciting for committee leftovers or lunches or the coffee machine. So there are those pieces and we'll just see how that goes. We're starting with the back of house just because there's still not a lot of food waste front of house here. So we're gonna start there.
Susan will not have to haul the compost, the coffee grinds to her stinky.
Yes, so Susan can drop, Susan, who is wonderful for those of you who don't know, who goes and goes through the public bins and takes out recycling and compost.
That one is.
Oh, Laura, that's Laura.
Yeah.
That's her, I forgot, okay.
I was talking about the GSA, Susan. Yeah, it's the coffee grinds from here. I used to put them in my backyard compost before we had the new town contract. As soon as the new town contract came in, Susan has access to curbside compost, so she now takes them to her curbside compost.
What part of the town operations has got the most, like, composting to use? Is it?
I mean,
And I'm not talking about like, door.
I was gonna say, like, obviously their parks department from the volume of actual waste, but probably town hall. It's just from council leftovers.
We have to think about buying one of those mill composters. They're $1,000, but they produce dirt. They're sweet.
So my girlfriend is testing one. She won one. And I really like this one because this one adds the bacteria to it.
Yeah.
So I think that could be a further work study that we look at that as on a future meeting. And maybe we can even apply for a test one for short term and to demonstrate to do a trial. So I personally don't like the Rumi, the one that just heats it up to kill it. It's using a lot of energy. It just heats it up and it doesn't break it down to the bioavailable components that you still need the microbes to do that. So I think that falsely gives the impression that it has broken down because it looks like brown dirt, but it is not broken down. It's not readily available. We put it on a plant, the plant still can't use it. Still needs to go through the microbial decomposition process. But this one that my girlfriend is testing out might possibly. And so that one could be, we can do a work study. Yeah. The ACES agrees to it. I would like to put that like as a work study of a project that we could do some of them bring from data to an ACES meeting in the future. Because I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, great. I love that idea. And then. And the last thing is just, I put the upcoming event that we're going to talk about, which is Saturday, January 31st. We're going to do the family-friendly eco-leader training here at the community center from 10 to 11:30.
Is it also the
Yes, afterwards.
Oh.
So we are here from 10 to 11:30 and Superior is from 12 to 5 down at the Civic Center. So we can piggyback, we're not competing.
What's 12 to 5, Michelle? Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Superior, it is a beer tasting. This
She was ready for it.
Little booze.
You didn't want to compete with a beer event?
No, we don't want to compete, we'll lose.
But it is another fundraiser for the memorial.
Yes.
No.
No, there's a subcommittee, caps that we put together a wonderful plan for David Memorial.
Oh.
I'm our representative, I'm ACES representative on that committee.
Oh, I'm on the big one too.
Oh, good.
I'm on, Superior Rising. So.
Awesome,
So,
awesome.
yeah, we're just now starting to think about the funds. Where's that gonna go? Right at the permanent first.
Right below it.
Go ahead, going up.
On that green space on the whole.
Awesome. And it's a really sweet thing. And totally didn't hear, but the general conversation right now is positive with Louisville and Boyd County and everybody would be on board for staying the single memorial.
Awesome.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Not official, not, I'm saying here.
To back on the committee, because I've been on it since its inception, and let you represent me. Okay, that will be great. Make that official.
It's, all right, I'm talking on
Secret update.
Except that John is now our official ACES member.
Okay, yeah, Jen's gonna be late, so we can, always jump on the road show then, so. All right, now we're on to Water Now Alliance Project Accelerator, our non-essential turf, so,
All right, well,
yeah.
this is like the big one for this evening, so I'm really excited about this. We've been talking about this for years, I think, in ACES, a long time.
Yes.
So I see Carrie is joining us. Oh, it says Carrie for both, but it's Carrie and Victoria on screen here. So, and then, and Will, we get the whole team. They all say they're Carrie, but they're not. So maybe I will let them introduce themselves first here, and then we can jump into the presentation.
Okay, sounds good. I can go ahead and start. I'm the actual Carrie. I'm Carrie Miller. I'm a program manager with Water Now. And I think, we all must have joined the same, using the same join link. So apologies for that. But yeah, I promise there's not three of me. But yeah, I'm excited to be here today and talk about the work we've been doing with Superior. I can go ahead and pass it over to Victoria.
Thanks, Carrie. Yep, I'm Victoria Arling. I'm Water Now's Colorado Basin Program Director. Really excited to be here today. Thanks for having us. And yeah, happy to answer any questions once we dive in. I'll pass it to Will next.
Thanks. My name is Will Salish. I'm also a program manager with Water Now. Super excited about this project, and thank you for hosting us tonight.
Sure. And then Alex, do you want to introduce yourself as well?
And I work with the town of Superior. I work in the planning department, but for the most part, for this project, I am coming at it from a mapping perspective.
So all these maps we have on the table that we're going to be looking at as well, Alex made for this project.
Thank you.
All right. Water Now team, do you want me to share the presentation on my screen, or do you want me to make one of you a co-presenter so you can flip through yourself?
Carrie, do you have a preference since you're kicking it off?
Whatever works easiest for you, Alexis.
Okay. I will just go ahead and make you a co-host, and I think I have selected the right Carrie out of the list here. So
Well, actually, the Will Carrie is going to screen share for us.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I just sent a request, so hopefully it's clear which one is me.
Let me see if this looks. I think I just clicked on.
Okay. Great. Let me go ahead and present. Go. Let me pull Zoom back up. If it will let me. There we go. Okay. Can everyone see that okay?
Yep.
Great. All right. And then Carrie, just give me a cue when you're ready for the next slides.
Perfect. And if this still works for you, Alexis, I think you were going to kick off with the first two.
Oh, great. Perfect. So I gave a brief introduction already, but essentially we're here tonight to get ACES feedback on kind of the middle of the process. So we've done a lot of work and been talking a long time about what does non-functional turf maybe look like in the town. We've spent a lot of time kind of removing things here or there. And so this is kind of our process to be more strategic about how we look at turf and how we look at removals. So we're excited to get your feedback tonight and talk to you about this process. Next slide, Will. So as you all know, our sustainability plan has goals and policy direction related to water use and water conservation. And so we've also spent quite a bit of time over the last few years collaborating cross-departmentally on ways that we can look at collaborating to conserve water. So we've identified some strategies, we've done some processes, we've invested in some, smart irrigation, smart controllers, various things that Matt Rarick and others have talked with this group over time. And we've done some conversions, as you all know, whether those are in the medians along Rock Creek Parkway or the little demonstration garden in Founders Park. But, they've kind of been based on opportunity, like with Rock Creek, where we were doing construction, it made sense to do the medians at the same time. Grant funding that's been available, volunteers like the Purple Park Pollinator Garden. It's kind of been piecemeal. We've never really had a holistic strategy or criteria to identify, a 5-year plan, for example, which this essentially is, of what are our most important criteria for where we remove turf, and how do we want to strategically look at funding to do that. So we applied for this wonderful project through the Water Now Alliance, and we're really excited to have their help to both identify what non-functional turf looks like, but also to help us kind of prioritize and create a strategy for the future, including how we might look to fund these things.
Yeah, thank you, Alexis, for giving that overview. Before we dive in, I just want to say thank you again for having us here tonight. We're excited to kind of hear all of your thoughts and perspectives during our discussion later. But I'll just quickly give an overview of Water Now. For those who aren't familiar, we are a nonprofit consultancy that provides expertise, support, and inspiration to a network of water leaders who want to build a climate resilient water future and help local communities and the environment thrive. And we do this by providing place-based assistance, educational opportunities, leadership development, and funding navigation to our network. So on the next slide, you'll see one of our longest standing programs, which is Project Accelerator. As Alexis mentioned, this project with Superior is part of Project Accelerator, where we provide 250 hours of pro bono technical assistance over 6 to 12 months to help public entities with drinking water, stormwater, and wastewater authorities design and launch sustainable water solutions. So each of these projects is tailored to local priorities and needs, so they all look a little bit different just based on that kind of local community context. And this project was one of the 3 projects selected during our spring 2025 round. So now going a little bit more into the project goals and outcomes, as Alexis mentioned, Superior applied to Project Accelerator for support developing a strategic and comprehensive process for converting non-functional turf on town-owned properties. And so this project has kind of 2 main goals. One is to develop a clear, locally relevant definition of non-functional turf, which you'll hear about a little bit later in the presentation. And then second is to create a site prioritization framework that helps the town rank turf conversion opportunities. And this will all culminate in a 5-year roadmap for the town, which will outline best practices, funding opportunities, and prioritization criteria to guide long-term implementation. And we're carrying this work out in 5 steps outlined on the next slide. Over the summer, we reviewed Superior's existing plans and policies related mostly to water conservation, landscaping, and fire-wise design, just to get an idea of kind of the main priorities around non-functional turf transformation. We also compiled non-functional turf definitions and water-wise landscape examples from peer communities and spoke with a couple of those communities to hear kind of best practices and lessons learned from the work that they've been doing. And then using that research, we drafted an initial non-functional turf definition and the Alex began developing preliminary maps to show where irrigated turf exists in the town. And as we've mentioned, those are the ones on the table, and we're going to talk about them a little bit later in the presentation too. And now we're currently in step 3, where we're meeting with staff and advisory groups like the presentation today to gather feedback on turf replacement priorities. And then in step 4, we'll incorporate today's insights into a site ranking tool to help Superior evaluate and prioritize future conversion projects. And finally, we'll compile everything into the implementation roadmap, which will drive how Superior identifies, designs, and funds future non-functional turf conversion projects. So with that, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Victoria now to talk more about the non-functional turf definition.
Quick question, is there plans to go to Park and OSAC to do the same presentation?
Leslie and the water team are going to go to Park. Because of the context in the irrigated turf, we decided not to go.
Okay.
And if anyone from ACES would like to help represent the ACES perspective at Park this month, they are less familiar with this context and the priorities that I think ACES has invested into this. So if anyone is interested, that is an opportunity. I wrote it down. It is the 21st here at 7 p.m.
I met with the park chair.
Okay.
And I'd like to go to, because I attended their meeting last month virtually, and I passed on the feedback that one, they didn't know who ACES was, and 2, they were interested in this. And so our 2026 work plan has overlap, so I would definitely like to go.
It's the 21st here,
The 21st here in this room at 7 p.m.
7 p.m.
is when it starts.
And so this group's gonna get the same presentation there.
Correct. But if you wanted to come at the beginning, say, you wouldn't necessarily have to stay for all of it, but if you wanted to come and like almost provide public comment or provide comment at the beginning about why ACES believes this work matters and some of the background of, I mean, Leslie will be there to represent why the town did it, but really ACES had a lot of role in helping us.
Yeah,
Towards this.
all you guys are welcome, but I'm free that night. I can put it on the calendar.
I think it's worth coming.
Yeah, good. That's here, the committee center.
In this room, yes. Yep.
All right, sorry about that. You guys will make-
Thank you, sorry.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, might as well work out the logistics now while you're all in the same room. And I'll just flag, like, the presentation is probably slightly different for parks based on some of Alexis and Leslie's input. We're just going to tailor it a little bit, and I think we have a little less time that evening, so it'll look slightly different, but very familiar. Okay, so thank you, Carrie, for just like the overview of our Project Accelerator program, the different steps that we've taken so far, and kind of where we're headed. We wanted to just give a little background to just kind of set the stage and a little context about how we got to where we were today. So before diving into the what we drafted for Superior's non-functional turf definition, we really grounded this work in different research in the broader context regarding turf transformation in the Colorado River Basin. And as you all know, across many of the Colorado River Basin states, communities have been taking steps to limit or phase out non-functional turf, particularly in areas like, medians and rights of ways, parking lots, and other landscapes that serve that primarily aesthetic purpose. And in Colorado, this direction has been really reinforced by some recent state legislation, which is Senate Bill 24005, which establishes limits on non-functional turf in certain types of new development, including some commercial, institutional, industrial, and common interest in HOA areas, as well as new construction in street right-of-ways, parking lots, medians, and different transportation corridors. So some of those places there in bold would apply to the town of Superior. And so while this law at the state level sets this high-level framework, it intentionally leaves room for local governments to define what non-functional turf looks like in practice. And so developing that locally tailored approach can help the town of Superior align with these evolving policies, proactively plan for future investments in turf replacement and limiting turf, and then ensuring that any turf conversion efforts on town-owned properties are just thoughtful, consistent, and defensible. So from there, on the next slide, we worked with the core project team of Alexis, Brooke, and Leslie, and started by drafting a functional turf definition broadly. And we define this as, irrigated, maintained grass species that are really mowed for an aesthetic lawn appearance. And then we focused on determining which areas serve that like civic, community, or recreational purpose, and identified some different areas such as, athletic fields, designated play areas, amphitheaters, sledding hills, dog parks, the list goes on. And then this definition of functional turf also covers, where turf plays a role in, stormwater management, erosion control, or anywhere that supports town or utility operations, as well as historic and interpretive sites and cemeteries. So we wanted to start by defining, where are people using this high water use turf grass, and make sure that, when we are looking at different areas, that these places would be protected, at least for the time being, from being converted to an alternative form of landscaping. And so after we did the functional turf definition, on the next slide, then we looked at the various types of criteria that non-functional turf could include. So these are areas that are not designated or regularly used for, civic, community, or recreational purposes, or even in locations where maintaining turf may be inefficient or really challenging from, like a maintenance perspective. And so this draft non-functional turf definition includes some different criteria, such as, like turf that's within and adjacent to parking lots, roadway medians and roundabouts in the public right-of-way, turf that's within a certain distance of the road or of public buildings, turf that's on really steep slopes, so like greater than 25%, excluding some of those areas like sledding hills or those designated play areas that we've then excluded as functional, and some of those turf problem areas, as we mentioned, where a different type of maybe native grass or something else might be better suited to that place. So and this non-functional turf definition is really just to serve as the basis for the spatial analysis, which Alex is going to go over at a high level in just a minute with some of those maps y'all have in front of you, to really just start assessing the extent of how much non-functional turf exists on town-owned properties. And so then the findings from this analysis will then help inform the establishment of different priorities and goals for non-functional turf conversion and how to prioritize different sites. So that's what we'll be jumping into in phases 4 and 5 of our project. And I just want to reiterate, right now, we just have this definition applying to town-owned properties. It does not extend to any private, commercial, or other non-municipal properties, and nor does it establish any enforceable regulations at this point. But that is something that the town could consider or look at doing in the future. And then if one more thing I want to highlight before passing it over to Alex and Alexis to go over some of the initial data that we found. Sorry, next slide, Will. Thanks. Are just keeping in mind some of the co-benefits of turf transformation. And so, while water savings are often the primary motivation for non-functional turf conversions, this work can also really deliver a broader set of benefits depending on how the different projects are designed and where they're implemented. So in many cases, as y'all probably know, replacing turf with water-wise or native landscapes can help improve stormwater quality and infiltration. It can help reduce runoff, support things like erosion control. And it can also enhance aesthetics and that sense of place, particularly in some of these high visible public spaces, and also create opportunities for, pollinator and wildlife habitat in places that serve a more, a higher ecological function than your high water use Kentucky bluegrass. In some locations, these projects can also serve as these demonstration or educational spaces that can help communicate the town's sustainability goals to the broader community. And I just wanted to highlight a few of these co-benefits since they're important to keep in mind, and since they're going to kind of help frame the, which places should be prioritized for turf removal, and thinking through, you know, what are some of these other co-benefits that we can achieve through these projects. So with that, I think I'll turn it back over to Alex and Alexis.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I have one request or two requests on that slide, for future communications. You mentioned under that stormwater quality and infiltration. Can you possibly add those words, in there? Because we talk about infiltration, as a sustainability committee, but that is not a word familiar to many of our, residents and town people. So I think that's a word, because we have a lot of hard clay and we get a lot of runoff, and then it goes to our retention ponds, and they get filled with duckweed. And so I think one of these benefits is that infiltration, and we wanted to take this opportunity to educate. And you have a great presentation, and I love this. This is my favorite slide. And the other words that we are starting to use is nature-based solutions. So if there's a way you can add that to this slide so people get the context that these are some of the nature-based solutions to sustainable methods.
Yeah, definitely happy to add these to the slides, and would definitely encourage you, as you know, as you guys are communicating with the public. Right now this is not a public facing presentation, but as you're communicating with the public, yeah, definitely let us know, like, what are those words that are resonating with them. You know, I think as we think, we'll be able to include some like light touch education and outreach recommendations in the final roadmap, but, you know, making sure that, you know, you're meeting folks where they are in terms of, you know, how to translate some of these more jargony and complex topics into something that's going to resonate with the community. But yeah, thank you for flagging that. We can definitely include some more of those words in these presentations.
Thank you.
All right, well, I'll pass it, I think, back to Alexis and Alex now to kind of tag team the next section before we have an open discussion. Thanks.
Great. So we talked a little bit about this before, but just some examples of where we've done this in the past. That picture on the top is the site of Purple Park, where we had the Youth Corps help pull out some grass and add some pollinator gardens. And Michelle, and I think, was it Tommy who did it with you?
Tom Terry's our former park ranger before Pario. And it's that great picture on the top is amazing because it is full of grass, but I have many pictures of the hundreds of pollinators in that track. It is a beautiful track of pollinator habitat.
Yeah, and the bottom one is on Rock Creek, I think.
Yeah.
Yep. And so, you know, how we did these projects before, they were kind of one-off opportunistic projects. We've tried to coordinate them with other capital projects, which is something we would like to continue doing as a policy direction. If we're ripping up the road and replacing it with nice new road, we don't want to be watering that road and degrading it. And it's also easier to address the medians when we're doing that. So that will likely continue. But that's something that we've done in the past. We've converted areas where it's really difficult and the grass is splotchy and weird and doesn't look nice. So those have been converted. Obviously, budget and size always comes into play. It's incredibly expensive to convert turf, like way more than you would think. You know, like an average medium-sized median has costed us about $250,000 to convert. And granted, they're pretty nice, as you can see, but part of the impetus for doing this project as well is, are there kind of efficiencies or pieces we can build in so we're not kind of reinventing the wheel every time as well, while also kind of having a consistent look and feel to things and not feeling disjointed in our projects that we do. Public visibility has come into play. That Founders Park Zero Garden we did last year is a great example. It's right by the playground there. We want it to be something that people can see and potentially replicate themselves. And that was great because that is the garden in a box garden. So someone could actually do that same garden in their yard. It's a slightly bigger version, but we're going to be adding signage. And so that's been part of how we think about these things too, with the community impact and the aesthetics. And each project has had kind of different goals and benefits to them, but this is exciting because we have an opportunity today to talk a little bit about what do we think from this group's perspective are kind of our most important things to focus on. So we'll do that in a little bit, but I'm going to turn it over now to Alex to talk a little bit about how he did these wonderful maps that are in front of you.
Hello. Yeah, so as mentioned, there were some definitions for functional and non-functional turf with a few characteristics that I was able to take and interpret into some familiar areas around town, specifically focusing on major right-of-ways and then 2 to 3 of the major parks in town. And so looking at some of the high-level numbers over here, roughly total irrigated turf on all town-owned properties is 207 acres. And then you can see the different breakdown of these kind of different categories that are shown in various colors and different line weights and whatnot. Next slide, please. So for basically the kind of thought process here, as you can see, the different categories: right-of-way, park, right-of-way adjacent or tract, potential functional turf areas, and then already xeriscaped or non-turf. And so this was a way to sort of break down those characteristics into a way to look at the prioritization of these non-functional turf areas. And so it goes from an area that is very clear and defined to an area that goes a little more gray and is hard to define and may have a little more of an understanding based on your perspective, to areas that are very clearly defined functional. So there's a little bit of a range there, but it gives you a little bit of a roadmap of where you want to look to start thinking about where we can reduce. Next slide, please. So I believe you have, for the people that are in person there, you have a few of the different maps. So obviously you can look at the different versions, but in purple, you can see that the right-of-way is very prevalent throughout the town. And there's a larger map that shows the overall right-of-way throughout town. And that's really where it was a glaring focus that there is quite a lot of non-functional turf based on the definition that we had created throughout town. Did you have anything to add, Alexis?
No, I mean, I think there's a number of slides here and on the table as well with just the different areas. And, they all have the same legends, so same ideas. I'm curious if you all have any questions just about the mapping in general.
If I understand the legend right, the purple is clearly non-functional turf.
Right.
And then there's one that is, I think, light green with a diagonal hash that is also like adjacent to medians.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's so a lot of shades of green.
NFT.
Correct.
And what I would recommend, or at least for us to discuss, is obviously purple is really easy to see.
Sorry.
But like the other, I would make that something else, something other shade of purple or something.
The dark green.
And,
Yeah.
and the thing I'm really reflecting on, Alex, is your first slide. I remember right, it's something like 50 acres out of 200 acres. So a quarter of our turf might be non-functional. Which surprised me when I saw those numbers, because when I was glanced at it, my eyes were to the purple.
Okay.
So that's something to consider.
Yeah.
Also, and I'm going to get to the point in a second. We have potential functional turf areas in dark green. The phrase potential sounds like we're still on the.
I guess to speak on that, that's just at the process where we're at right now. We're still in that place of getting the feedback. So we didn't want to define anything necessarily in wholehearted, I guess, until the throughout, like as we're throughout the process. We're kind of here to get feedback and the
In contrast, we are defining the non-functional term in a declarative term. We're not saying potential there. So, and what I'm getting at, I'm always about how do we connect people to where they are. Right? And somebody, especially on parks community, I can imagine, is proud of our parks. And they are, and for example, looking at Rock Creek Parkway, the area that I think is identified right now as right of way adjacent track NFT, along the walkways that are right along the south edge of Parkland Parkway, many people will probably say, well, that's part of the park. And so I think that being, well, first of all, just being a little bit political in our phrasing is wise, but also just recognize the fact that we have people in various different stances of what we're currently thinking and making sure that we're not assuming everybody's already on the same page. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's absolutely fair. And that is part of why we have a lot of this turf that is this just park, the light green. And I agree that we could use a little bit of differentiation between all the greens.
And I guess I have maybe a more fundamental question is, I think this is awesome to identify these places of potential non-functional turf. But then it begs the next question. What are we going to do about that? And when you show me the pollinator sort of environments that are beautiful and functional and awesome, that's cool. Do we do that everywhere? I don't know. How expensive is that? I don't know. But I don't necessarily comment on this stuff, but I hear people commenting, look, I love that thing. I think it's on the north edge of Parkway where they essentially just put in a whole bunch of rock instead of anything else. And they're like, what the hell is this? And so people will have these connotations attached to themselves. Are you going to take it out? Are you going to rock it? In zero skipping, this feels like rock to some people. And so I love the identification of this potential non-functional turf, but I'm not interested in, well, what do you do instead? And I feel like that's a conversation with parks guys really go keen on.
Okay.
John, can I jump in with just something real quick? I thought, because the number struck me as well when you look at, basically 25% of our total turf, it could be classified as non-functional turf pretty much. I think it would be great to incorporate the actual number of gallons of water that are required to irrigate this much turf as well, and then make some human relative connections, right? Not we're using 3 million gallons of water per, for this acre, but that water equals how many families, in need of water in Southern Colorado as our pipeline gets crushed. Something like that, like some sort of equivalency that makes it a little bit more real for people as we get into that discussion on messaging around disaster preparedness versus adaptation versus climate impacts. So I think you can take this table and expand it out to beyond just what turf areas you have, but really what's the impact of having this much turf and what's the impact of converting the turf to a xeriscaped or non-turf area.
Well, to add, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, to build off of what you said, Miles, what's the cost to water it and maintain it?
Yeah.
That's a number I feel like I've been, and again, we've been talking out loud, not anybody's action item, but like Leslie, how much does it cost to pay Vargas per acre to mow the land and mow turf and take care of it? And they need to apply some sort of cost per 1,000 gallons. We're charging what, $5 or $6 per 1,000 gallons right now. Maybe it's gone up, maybe it's not going up.
Yeah.
But yeah, to your point, but I think to get the town council's attention, even town staff, they need to know how much it costs per year to maintain each acre of turf.
And then I want to add on to that maintenance cost is the pesticides. So to the point of when they had the disc golf tournament in Purple Park, they sprayed this whole area with the pesticide called Vessel, three pesticides. That is a huge expense just to take out the thistle for that. So if
maintenance, not just mowing.
Exactly, not just mowing. So
reseed it once in a while.
Exactly.
Pesticide.
Right.
Fertilize it.
Did I might have misunderstood, but did someone mention something about the impact of the irrigation on like the road?
Yeah.
Well, there's that side of it too.
Is there data for that? And I mean, it makes logical sense, but I'm wondering if there's any concrete data with that.
I imagine there's somebody in the pavement world probably talks. So somebody in the public works.
Our town council has talked about that in other meetings, so I think they've had something.
Marks are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we certainly have anecdotal evidence. I don't know how much like we've collected hard data, but we've certainly seen that when those areas that are next to the road, those little like strips, or the medians are irrigated with spray and it's running down the road, so that it does degrade them.
Hey, so Alex, this is fantastic. Before I jump into what about this area, that area, like, are you still kind of flushing through and building out your map there, or are you kind of calling this a done and or a pre-done? What are you calling it? Are you still flushing
Yeah,
through?
this has a lot more work to be done. This was only some preliminary maps.
Like a work in progress. Yeah, because I live in South Rock Creek, and yeah, there's definitely, you know, some more areas. Like I obviously like even around the South Pool, there's a bunch of grass around there. That's one area, but there's other areas now.
So what you guys are referring to, is that visualized on kind of the light green, like sketch mark through the like along the trail a little bit, and that
Yes.
is that what you guys are talking about? Like if we go to one of the more zoomed in maps, like especially the one in Rock Creek, Indiana Street, and Cold Creek is a good one. Or even there, yeah, like I'm not doing a good job describing it, but are you talking about like these areas along here that are kind of outlined? Is that what you're?
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, where you have like an outline just south. Yeah, those block outlines. Is that kind of like the areas you're honing into in phase 2 of this, or whatever you want to call it?
He can't see.
Yeah. Alex, we're talking about at the top, like where the end of community park is, there's like a little bit outline. I think there's asking, is this gonna be expanded townwide or but I don't know, maybe we could also talk about like our broader plans here for like next phases and what we're gonna do with this information, getting feedback. So maybe we turn it, keep going with the presentation and then we can come back to the map specifically, but.
Okay, yeah, well, that was the other question. Is there more to this? And
There's more, yes.
And see our questions. So okay, you might answer.
I love the maps, and coming from a family of colorblind people, this is good. They would be able to discern the different areas and the shading. So I appreciate that attention.
All right, cool. All right, here's what's next.
Keep going, Alex.
Perfect. Well, I think, yeah, maybe we can keep on going to our discussion questions, unless Alex, there's anything else you wanted to, final thoughts about the maps.
Nothing else. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Well, yeah, thanks again for presenting those. And yes, kind of as we've been hinting at, those were preliminary maps that were developed as we were finalizing the non-functional turf definition. So we'll continue working on those throughout the rest of the project to kind of get them more finalized. But yeah, we've been taking notes on all of the feedback. So thank you for that. And I think, yeah, we can move into these questions, which you all have already kind of started to talk about a little bit. But we've just got these 4 questions, and we're hoping to take about the next 20 minutes to talk about them with you all. So about 5 minutes per question. And I think we can go ahead and dive into the first question. And just a quick note, as we're going over these, for the people in the room, if you wouldn't mind speaking up a little bit for those on Zoom so we can kind of hear, just so we can really make sure we're capturing your feedback, that'd be much appreciated. Thank you. So yeah, the first thing we want to talk about is prioritization. So if Superior could only tackle 3 to 5 non-functional turf areas over the next 1 to 5 years, which types of areas should rise to the top and why? And you could think about this as some of the areas that you just saw on the map, maybe some of the areas that we talked about in the definitions earlier, or other specific areas that come to mind.
That's where I think that going the direction Miles is going, and trying to talk about what the tangible benefits are of this sort of conversion. But then also putting this in the hands of the Parks Committee or the Park Department. I mean, but this is, we can all say something based on our experience, but it's folks who this is their job, just to think about the cost of currently. And so we can maybe help give some criteria. I love the idea of putting the numbers on the costs associated with maintaining it currently. But I don't know why we need to give prioritization out of ACES.
I mean, I would think the hardest and most expensive areas. I know we're a small town to begin with, so not the guy driving the truck.
I think one thing is that we talked about.
Yeah. Yeah, probably the hardest, I mean, again, this probably is a Matt Rare question, is what is the hardest pain in the butt area to keep green and maintain? You know, I really think he's the one that's going to answer that question. And I know just from, I walk around this town a lot, we walk on the trails, you guys all do too. I mean, I mean, I know Alex is still a work in progress, but there's a lot of grass around all of our concrete trails that go all between houses and stuff. And of course, to myself, I'm just like, why is there grass between here and the fences to people's backyards? And there's, you know, a lot of it is brown, weedy, butts up against native grass. And now you got the native grass seeds blowing into the turf grass seeds, or turf grass areas. Yeah.
One thing that jumps out to me in terms of prioritization that I think was on a previous slide is aligning with other projects happening in the city. Any type of development that's already been flagged, like making sure to take advantage of those, and anything new that's going in and getting replaced, we're taking this into consideration.
Good point, Patrick.
And there are definitely areas that the weed warriors fight and having to pull invasive weeds as required by the state through our Parks Department. That would be something else I would put as a priority as well.
Does that give you guys some direction on question number one?
Super
Gonna
helpful
go
to
more
hear.
like question number 2.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, if you're all ready to jump into question number 2, go for it. I think you've already been hinting at it a little bit. Wait, Victoria, was there anything you wanted to add for question 1 though, before we move on?
No, I was just gonna say it's really helpful, and just kind of tying it back to some of those preliminary maps and the acreages that Alex pulled together. As you saw, like even just with the right-of-way NFT, that's probably enough projects to get you through the next few years. So, you know, we want to make sure in this roadmap that we're putting together, which is like the culmination of this project, is that we're just, you know, putting together concrete recommendations that are going to be obtainable and feasible for you all. So it's really helpful to hear some of the areas that rise to the top for you all right now. And, you know, some things will have to happen further down the line. We don't want to recommend anything that's going to be too hard to accomplish. So thanks.
I think the only things I see missing from 2, which we did talk about, is watering the roads.
Right. Causing road damage.
Road damage, but even building damage. You know, we have a lot of bentonite in our soil, and we shouldn't be watering grass right next to a building. That's bad for the building foundation. And of course, obviously, it's more cost to the town long term. So I think, yeah, grass adjacent to roads and buildings, I think it's the only other ones that make your list in the parentheses is pretty solid.
I would add 2 more in that decision criteria. One is a place where there are invasive weeds on list A and list B, Colorado's list A, list B, because that requires town resources to address those by law. And the other one is a more,
What does that mean? Do you mean we're watering the weeds and shouldn't water the weeds? Like, what do you mean by the invasive weeds, and how is that
I'll give you,
tied to removing grass?
yeah, so there are places that are, I believe, could be non-functional turf. And it might not even be non-functional turf, but they have these invasive weeds there. So we are required to remove those. When we remove those, either by weed warriors volunteer, asking Vargas, or town staff, we're not putting anything there. We don't have a plan to put something else in its place. We do have some open native grass seed that we are now starting to add, but it's not part of this plan that we're talking about. So that should be part of the criteria, that where these spaces exist, it should be identified as non-functional turf, it should be removed, and it should be addressed.
Are the weeds in the grass? The turf, or are they in the
They're
native
adjacent.
grass?
No, they're adjacent to the turf that we're watering. So we're actually helping the runoff.
So we are watering the weeds.
So not is watering the weeds, that is, yeah.
That's what I was trying to.
And so the other piece to capture in that decision criteria is more of a nature-based one in the sense that, there are places that we are either spending money on pesticides and there's runoff for that, or we have destroyed an animal habitat. So this is where parks would talk about this. It's more their criteria. But that would be something I would see them wanting to look at too.
Any other comments on number 2?
The other thing I would say is, this is an opportunity for engagement with the community. And so I have a tough time looking at one without, like if I'm going to prioritize an area, I have to prioritize it with the idea of what I'm going to replace it with at the same time. But this is the sort of thing that there should be some degree of like signage in an area prior to some replacement with installation and a request for engagement so people know what's going on. And so making sure we've done that before we move forward.
And that's a great point about the educational opportunities.
All right. Number 3, is that what we're moving on?
Yeah, are we ready to move on to 3? Any last thoughts on 2?
Just like we are trying to figure out the cost savings that is available by taking the during the term, we should think about what are the impacts of the replacements. I'm sure it's not being done. Okay? So if we're doing things that are better.
Yeah,
More expensive.
where I've swirled around this topic is that we're not landscape architects in this room. And you need a landscape architect that specializes in this exact scenario. That, like you said, not going to put a bunch of dark rocks that's going to be weedy and create a minor heat island effect and or other stuff that's going to take a ton of water that's going to have to germinate like on 88, all the stuff that Louisville did. Well, it was a freaking flood there for a couple of months because there were water and all that stuff, which is impacting the roads. And yeah, I don't know if Water now has landscape architects and that level of expertise on your team, but I would turn number 3 over to someone who knows exactly what we're trying to do here. Low cost, low water, no water options.
And add the no plastic landscape fabric.
That stuff too, like someone.
Yeah, all great points. And I think that's a good call about, definitely leaning on landscape architects for the details. But I think it'd be helpful to hear from you all about perceptions and like aesthetics in terms of these landscapes and that kind of other element of it. Like if you're here, I think you already talked about mentioning that you've been hearing from some other community members, like what they do and do not like, and kind of how that might play into your preferred kind of replacement landscaping.
You know, one thing I'll highlight is something you pulled out in the other benefits, which is basically education and highlighting what we're doing in these spaces. So like not just removing them and then not really doing anything with that space. People are, if they see turf removed, most people in this town, I would imagine that they want to see something that they feel is a benefit to them replacing it. So that could be signage, that could be education, that could be something for kids to do as they go on the walks next to them. That could be little targets for dogs to take poops on. I don't know what it is, but something to like get them engaged in the space that they're walking through or being near. It's a little harder, obviously, with like medians and, you know, things that are in the middle of roadways or right next to roadways, you don't want kids playing there. But in turf areas that are kind of more visible from park areas, just replacing it with something that is, I don't know, what do you want to say about the town branding? Family friendly and, you know, functional in a way, right?
I think there's probably an argument towards leaning into pollinator friendly and wildlife friendly wherever possible.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
The other piece, have you guys toured the Northern Water up in Berthoud and all their demonstration gardens by any chance?
I have to put
Yeah, have you guys been up there? So it's a wonderful demonstration to the point of the slide that you had with the stormwater and the pollinator gardens. Those I think are very helpful to people, especially on number 3. Pictures speak tons of words. So to what Miles was saying, having different ideas of family friendly. We have a big public art group here, so art would be something in there. all the time, whenever we put the rocks, and it looks great for a couple years, but we always get the detritus, the debris from the leaves blowing in. We get the weed seeds, which are super opportunistic. All the thistle will grow, all of the prickly lettuce will grow, and then it becomes unsightly. So that is part of what needs to be addressed. What does this look like 3 years from now, 5 years from now? And how can we maintain that? And what we do, right now we have the weed warriors in our parks, and they're ripping out these weeds, but all that's left is the clay. And then it brings more weed in, and then we get more erosion. So what we're doing right now is not working. And so any pictures of many other solutions would be very helpful in that step 3.
Guys on 3?
So on criteria, Jim, you mentioned, make sure we're not exacerbating that, you know.
Yeah.
So that's something that, and related to that is, you should have, we're still fire-wise, right?
Yeah, so it is important.
Yeah. Jump the universe.
Perfect. Yeah, those are all great points. Any other thoughts to add on that? The last part of 3, where any kind of like preferences by location? Is there, if like you all were to kind of determine at one point that parts of like less utilized areas of parks are non-functional turf, and we want to like replace those, is there specific landscaping you'd like to see there versus like a right of way?
We don't have much demonstration of roam grasses and buffalo grass. And so that would be nice to show people, because some people would like to put that, or clover, you know, some cover crops that also put nitrogen in the soil. So I think that would be additional trees like canopies, or layers of, you know, a bush and a tree to put some of these, and that gives wildlife a place to go hide and bed down and have their families. We already know there's limited spaces for that, and the wildlife find people's backyards. And thankfully, we've had great neighbors that will respect wildlife and let them have their families in their backyard and stay away from them. But we lack some of those spaces. So I could see some of the turf removal, putting some of those spaces in to make it wild animal or wildlife friendly.
Does it make sense, like, partially ask this question, but, to just look at it by irrigation zone? Like there's zones of irrigation just shut off.
Well, that was one of my comments for Alex, is has he overlaid all the irrigation zone control valves and what area they serve? I mean, I know he wants to.
Yeah,
But
then we can, yeah.
it's like, we're on phase 1, that's phase 5, it's all good. I think that's yeah, when you get to that point of like, okay, well, we're gonna shut down, okay, what controls that zone valve are we shutting off here? And Matt doesn't have to worry about it again. But that was more of an Alex question than to overlay that.
That would be kind of a low hanging fruit sort of a way to look at it, just like, hey, which ones did you shut off?
And to Patrick's point, if we're doing a project, let's focus on that.
Yeah.
I mean, I also think in a vacuum, like purple, like it's a small section, it's a lot of mediums, it's a lot of small strips. I mean, there'd be an argument for more cost effectiveness and getting out those small chunks first. But I also really like being more intentional about it and finding sections that make sense to tell.
One thing I've seen, in terms of replacement of landscapes, I've seen some places put different kinds of rock, and they'll put signs. This is, you know, a metamorphic rock. This came from that. So it's an education of geology, and it helps take up that turf. Because if you just put gravel in, we know we're going to get the thistle and the prickly lettuce and everything in 3 to 5 years.
I think you said that's stuff, you know.
So we do the 3. You guys have enough for 3?
Yeah, any last thoughts on 3 before we move on to our final discussion question?
Well,
Great.
another number 4. Are we on 4 now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Another thing I probably, Alex, on your to-do list is, we have a lot of native grass, open space that's irrigated. So if you want the low hanging fruit, shut that off. Like right now. And if you want that to water or not water, so
How much of that is to get rid of the water from the waste treatment that we have to use up?
that's
Where is that? Where is open space irrigated?
right up here behind my house. And then also right here along Rock Creek Parkway, no, along Colton, on the south side, you got the grass and you got the native grass going all the way up to the fence to all the houses there. That whole area is watered. And that's like what, a 50, 60 foot wide swath of grass and native grass. I'm not gonna tell you what other parts are watered. But yeah, I think to your point, like the zone control valves and whether it's nice grass or native grass. What's water?
Just keep in mind that our native shortgrass ecosystem that we're living in right now is a fire adapted ecosystem. So let's, we don't necessarily go all the way back to something that is designed to burn or wasn't.
Right.
So let's keep that in mind.
And so to your point,
Something to do.
I don't, is that clear up there to your point?
No, we mentioned it with decision criteria, not be firewalls or others.
Okay.
But I think that, yeah.
Can you repeat that last part? I didn't quite catch that last comment. Were you talking about native grasses being fire hazards? Is that?
Well, I mean, just a short grass step, which is where we are. That's the
Meadowy grass. Yeah.
STEPPE is a fire adapted ecosystem. So let's not just return the, let's not mention to anybody, we never would do this, right? We wouldn't go this far, but if somebody could take it the wrong way and feel offended that we're not being firewalls. So let's not say, hey, we're going to return the whole thing to native grass, because native grass is not necessarily what we want from a firewise plan.
Particularly maybe in that open space context, is that your thought? Yeah. Yeah.
Just the whole town is going through a firewise kind of multi-year metamorphosis, right?
Yep.
And hence the goats.
Yeah.
To mitigate that. So I think that's part of this conversation and the sensitivity to the fire. I'll tell you, we have the WaterWise workshops. And so we have webinars by Resource Central that talk about how to landscape your yard for WaterWise and FireWise. And the biggest statement they said in the FireWise workshop is have irrigated turf. When you have irrigated turf and you're watering, you are avoiding the spread of wildfires. So that is not, that's in competition or against what we're saying to try to conserve water. So there is this medium that we have to find in the middle, but by putting practices of the goats chewing down the greenery and the native grasses that turn into fire fuel, that's important. So these have to be done in tandem to that, or we will bristle hairs on the back of necks.
Yeah, like I never really read the WUI, the wildland urban interface.
It's important to know.
That is a piece of our language now.
Right.
Big chunks of our town, which is exactly a wild urban.
Well, I don't know if you guys noticed before the wind event, they mowed it all the time.
Yeah.
All the community park. I mean, you probably have the town center and mowers to that whole thing. All area that burn, I mean.
Hey, Jim, Jim, when you're talking, can you sit forward and look at the owl? We can't really understand a word you're saying.
You got a point.
Oh, sorry, well, this is not note taking stuff, but yeah, we were just saying with this tug of war of irrigated, non-irrigated, fire resiliency, now we're creating a fire hazard. I was just saying, I observed, and maybe you guys did too, all the area along Community Park was mowed down. The goats weren't in, it was short, right, leading up to the wind event.
So we need 10 to 20 number of goats.
Yeah, exactly. There's not enough goats.
More
So
goats.
let's kind of maybe put a dot on this thing. My first comment around the use of the word potential, saying it in a little bit of a flip word, but it's probably important to bring that into it in a more systematic. Because identifying this stuff and bringing it into our town conversation is super important, super helpful, it's valuable, and all of it. But it has to be also all these other things. And that's what the park department, that's what the park committee, everybody else, they're there to do that. They probably haven't been thinking about this non-functional stuff. Also, this helps them with that. But we shouldn't give the impression that we are not sensitive to the other priorities.
Absolutely.
Well, to answer question number 4, I actually have a list of things we can do because, yeah, we're talking about the most expensive option, which is removing it. But we know that's going to take years to, even if that, the 50 acres, we want to get rid of all that. That's going to take years at 3 to 5 acres a year. So what we got to do is the cheapest, lowest hanging fruit is we got to tune up our existing irrigation system, make it work more efficiently. And so what I mean by that is stop watering the streets. Like I'm not kidding. We have sprinklers that are out of calibration and literally aim into the street. I'm not even talking water that's running off. Maybe putting in more efficient heads. Again, we got lots of misters still along these medians along Colton. Windy days, that mist is just blowing right onto the street. More advanced controls to where we can react immediately to thunderstorms and shut the system off immediately instead of watering while it's pouring rain. And so I think there's a lot that can be done ahead of removal or decommissioning these areas on just the system we inherited that was installed 25 years ago and now we're living with it. So that's kind of, and then last is just shut off the water that's watering the open space. So, all right, that's all I got for number 4.
Well, I think we're kind of running out of time, so I can't remember. Are there more slides? I just want to make sure we can wrap up.
Yeah, we just have like basically a thank you slide. So if anybody has any last thoughts on 4, kind of any, I know we've been talking a lot of criteria through this discussion. So any really rising to the top that you want to shout out now, I think we have time to just quickly do that.
You guys hit on it. What about you, Miles? You've been silent there. Anything we missed?
No, I'm good. You're good.
Well, I think
I mean, I'd love to just hear updates to this. I mean, this is obviously the beginning of a fantastic road. Appreciate all Water Now you're doing, Alex. This is great. We know this is step 1 of probably 50 steps. So love what you've done so far. Love where it's going. We know there's a lot going on here. So thank you for jumping into this. So
yeah. So just to wrap up on that note really quick. So we are going to be developing a tool that can interface with the GIS that kind of has these different priorities in a way that we can look at these different pieces and you can kind of sort by priority. But we will certainly update ACES. As you know, Park is next. So that's kind of the last round of this particular piece. We will be talking hopefully with council about this in like later spring, early summer is kind of the goal. And my goal for ACES at this point is this has been a priority of ACES for a long time. We will keep you updated on this roadmap, but if this is something that you think is important for council to be thinking about, when we have those opportunities like the ACES dinners and other things, I think this is something council's expressed interest in. I think this is something ACES has been really interested in seeing come to fruition. So kind of as policy pieces come out of that, I think that's a great role for ACES to be advocating for a more like strategic and prioritized turf removal approach. Of course, balancing all the many priorities like you mentioned, but just kind of wanted to make a plug for where this goes next for ACES, and I will certainly keep you updated, and you will be able to see as we get into more like finalized pieces of this work.
Great,
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Alexis,
thank you.
Will, if you want to just jump to the last slide, just want to throw here's our contact information. If you all have any questions for us, please reach out. But yeah, thank you so much for having us tonight.
Awesome. Thank you all.
Nice to meet you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
That's a
Thank
big,
you.
that's a big progress. I mean, 5 years ago, we were talking about
This is a huge step.
John Craven will be back. He was a former member.
Yeah. It's like a potential.
Maybe we need a different color for maybe that's yellow.
It used to be real. When I came in here, at first I thought what the proposal was to make all these dark green areas astroturf. No, I could have some serious questions.
No.
I was happy to move very quickly, but I'm just, come on.
All right, I guess we're now moving on to the Eco Leader January event.
Okay,
And that's January 31st.
January 31st, which is a Saturday. We are going to host it here. The purpose of this, so remember last year, we as ACES approved about $2,000 of our budget to be spent on Eco Leader training. So we had our first training right after the state of Superior last year. We had 5 people attend that event. This is the second event that we wanted to make family friendly. So I always keep Miles and his family as my target audience. And so the goal is we're going to have a half hour of carnival-like environment, like games here. Is that from like 10 to 10:30 or is that from 10 to?
Yeah.
I think it's 10 to 10.
10 to 10:30.
10 to 10:30, we'll have an hour. And this is where I'm asking for your help because we're going to have to man those stations. We're thinking of 4 stations, one of them being Tim's game, the pinball machine.
I'm going to talk about
Okay, so that would be one. One would be the spinning wheel. One would be the race game that we did with the tennis balls, the sorting game. And then the 4th one was natural resources matched to make man-made resources, meaning trees make paper, cardboard, oil and gas make plastic, rocks make mineral metals, sand makes glass, bamboo makes sheets, things like that. So kids would rotate with their parents through that carnival, like right out in the entrance, or right up in the open space by the amphitheater in this building. And then from 10:30 to 11:30, they would move into the Longs Peak room, the big meeting room, and we would do a presentation with Miss Peel. I'll be Miss Peel and Lex Cannon, the Eco Leader, and it would be a presentation on how the attendees can be our junior Eco Leaders with their family Eco Leaders. And an Eco Leader basically is a resource for neighbors to be able to answer questions on what do I do with this when I have this waste, and to really feel good about helping our community and helping our planet through zero waste practices. And that is what we're going to accomplish in that. The challenge will be to get people to attend. And that's our biggest challenge. So I'm hoping to use Monday night's public comment as a chance to advertise again that we have this event on January 31st for folks to come. I'm going to reach out to our seniors in our senior group. They have each of them have grandkids, and they bring grandkids to these events. And so that would be another group to come. So let's see if we pass.
Can I have the chamber in any way, and there are other local businesses who want to like be giving something away or do something related?
That's a great question. I would like to build on this, like Zero Waste 2.0 or Eco Leader 2.0, where we do practices of zero waste habits. And what would your house look like? What could you do in this room, in that room? And that's where maybe the local businesses could be a partner down the road. I like that idea. Because we also have businesses. Go ahead, Miles.
Is Kim able to share this out through a Green Star program?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And so she'll be able to share it through that program, and she'll review the program. Lex and I are meeting tomorrow and going over the script. And then, so essentially what we're going to do is we are going to have a big trash can, a 96-gallon trash can full of stuff. And Miss Peel is going to promote the organics, like the compost recycling, like take out food out of the garbage so it doesn't make methane and cause greenhouse gases. But there's a bunch of other stuff, like a vacuum cleaner, like cardboard boxes full of bubble wrap because you just got a new TV. And we're going to be basically pulling stuff out of that big trash can, the 96-gallon one, and showing places where it can go. So eventually, all the stuff that needs to go to the landfill can fit into the 35-gallon one. And that will promote the volume-based trash contract we have for the town that Rock Creek will eventually move. So people will get the visual that this vacuum cleaner should not go into landfill, it should go up to Charm, or it could be fixed. The hazardous waste, tree limbs. And so this is the way to visually educate people so they can see, one, can I do something better in my house, but how can I help my neighbors? And how does this help build our community? And that's what we hope to accomplish in that.
Is this a town event?
It's technically an ACES event because you all paid for the eco leader piece and Michelle is leading that on behalf of ACES. But I will be there and Emily probably will as well. So we're helping support it from a staff side, but it's technically ACES.
So if I can ask for volunteers
Talking about town.
on that weekend.
Yeah,
I'm gonna do a hot trip in Europe.
How, okay,
tentative yes, but I need to double check my work schedule.
yeah.
Kids' schedule.
Miles, are you?
I'm checking my calendar right now.
Okay,
I
great.
think, boy, events on Saturdays are hard. I have something 10 to 11, but I could show up outside of that.
Okay,
What time is it officially that day?
so 10 to 10:30 is a carnival, is a half hour beforehand, the station rotation, kind of part, and then from 10:30 to 11:30, we would have the family, eco leader presentation.
Sure.
I would say 10 to 11:30 is the public facing event.
Yes, so the next couple weeks, there will be like a standalone email, social media, all those things. So as you see those come out from the town, it'll be in the newsletter as well, the sustainability newsletter, as you see those.
Digital sign by any chance, or tent sign?
Probably. Yeah, we can talk about how much stuff you need me to move out here, but we probably can.
Right.
And we're 100% locked into that date, right?
Yes, because Alexis had a hard time finding space that aligned, that was available. It was really a space. So again, this is our first time that we're trying this. The idea is we could replicate this ourselves. So
Is it, is it okay to, if we have someone
Yeah.
to, ask Superior Elementary or Eldorado, maybe to talk about?
yeah, so Kim Orr, who is EcoCycle's schools director and also a Superior resident, will help promote it.
What's kind of the target age range that you're going?
Anywhere from 5 to an adult, 5 years old. So kindergarten to an adult.
Any issues with Kim sharing it to the Louisville schools as well?
No, there's no issues.
I
With that.
think that would be a good idea. There's a lot of eco clubs at those schools, so.
Yeah.
So I was like, no rules.
So everybody, everybody can come because we know how busy that day is. And we can advertise it to, 10,000 people and 10 will still show up. So.
Probably. I'm just thinking like, if it makes sense to reach out to the folks we know over in Louisville,
Yeah.
including Josh Cooperman, there could potentially be some volunteers from that group that would
Yeah.
want to participate as well. That's all.
Exactly. And I hope that we replicate this. I hope this program gets gets repeated 20 times. And I'll be happy if I get 10 families to show up on that Saturday. That would be my goal. So thank you.
I'm caught up on the term eco leader. Does that really just mean that's someone that's focused on solid waste?
So Eco Leader is a trademark name by EcoCycle. It is their program that has trained volunteers as block leaders to help educate neighbors on where to throw things away.
But it's not energy, it's not air quality.
Correct.
It's not all the other facets.
It's not the other facets of sustainability. But however, we educate people on how they are linked to all those other pillars of sustainability. So yes, that's part of when we talk about natural resources going to man-made resources and why we recycle energy is a huge piece of that because the embedded energy, embedded carbon is in there and we teach that. So yes, it's important, but it's really focused on zero waste lifestyles and habits. But energy is definitely a piece of that, and energy conservation. How can you type into energy audits? Go do that because it does help. Yeah.
So I just had a little hard time hearing when we were doing volunteers. Is anybody who is definitely going to be able to assist?
Definitely.
John,
Maybe Patrick. I can't give it definite yet, but I think I'm free. But I'll have to send it over.
I'm on a hot trip that weekend, so unless an Arctic cold front comes down and for safety reasons we can't go, or avalanche danger, I will likely not be there.
That's
And Emily can help too, I
Emily
think, so
okay.
we're helping support this, but it is an ACES event.
Right, no, appreciate that. I'm just trying to think of how I could potentially get there in time. It's tough.
Is the rest of your family there from?
That's, Maddie can't make it and Joe's got to take her somewhere else. I've got to take the dog to therapy and all that. And we have appointments for all these things, but I can try and get out of therapy. It's just hard to reschedule it. That's all.
We bodies I could get, like my daughter Callie.
Because every time we get a teenager to come, we expand their knowledge. Oh, she's not a teenager.
Well, I mean, and if I'm able to, my daughter's 13, might be interested in coming along, so I'll follow.
Okay, that would be great. But that would be enough to man our stations.
Yep.
And then we'll do the presentation. But I will send out the script. I said, Lex and I, tomorrow we're gonna present it to Kim and the schools department and get all their changes and modifications, and then we'll present it to Alexis, and then we'll share it with you guys. And everyone can take a look at the script and see what we're trying to cover and what goals, and if you have any inputs and suggestions. And again, this will be our first one with hopes that we have 20 members.
I can't be there.
That's okay.
Other than like the major community events, are there any other events that we have on like firm dates for?
Yeah, we have
Yes.
this agenda, but yeah, we should be looking at the 2026 calendar like we did last
Maybe-
year and put change next to everything.
Maybe we do that for next meeting and add that as an agenda
We do
item, because we do. Yeah, that's a good, we just started that last year, and I think that'd be great to add to the February one for what we kind of know all year, and I can update, there was an Excel spreadsheet that has everything in there, and ACES also kind of decided what they weren't gonna table. Which I think is helpful because this is a volunteer committee. We're hoping a couple more people are gonna join soon, but
Yeah, I'm in town.
I just talked to Michaela today, who's our, staff liaison that collects all that. They did a big push, a comms push yesterday. And she said like 10 people sent stuff in, but I don't know, like for all the committees, so I don't know. Hopefully all of them are for ACES. We're in hot demand. I know Emily, our new specialist, she has a friend who lives in Superior, and so she's talking about it. I've been definitely trying to drum up interest. We put it in the newsletter a couple times, but no confirmed candidates that I know of. But all that to say, I think future meeting, great idea to put that back on the agenda and look at what does ACES want to attend or do itself. And then given that, are there things that ACES can opt out of? And we know that we don't want to do because we don't want this to take over your whole lives here.
Well, this is a good segue into our topic. This is something I have Alexis add, which is ACES event messaging. We do have this new pinball machine. I don't want to take up meeting time, but I can show you all at the end how it works. But I did send Alexis you a spreadsheet. If you could bring that up.
You sent me a spreadsheet?
I emailed it to you. You probably won't realize you got it.
I don't think I saw it, but I can check my emails.
But I think the prime the pump for these events is I want to talk about how we want to messaging we want to do with those events. And I know last year and the year before was a heavy messaging around solid waste, with all the curbside composting and new waste agreement downtown and all that stuff. I would really like to focus into more balanced messaging that aligns with our sustainability action plan. And so what I mean by that is, right here.
Yeah, I'm just gonna share it so Miles can see it.
Thank you.
So the pinball machine is like a pinball machine. You try to hit balls and holes in there, and each hole has a sensor in it that lights up the different colors you see on the screen. And so I put this is a draft. You guys can add ideas, build off of it. But I built these categories off of our sustainability action plan. So if someone hits it in a certain hole, if the colors are randomized, you ask the person the question. And we have this key in front of us. And we're going to go through every single question. You guys can read them. And then I want you guys to have more questions if you can think of stuff. But the idea here is to educate about all the parts of our sustainability action plan and different components. And if they get the answer right, we'll have to decide
what swag or whatever we want to give.
So to your point, if we had more people on the carnival piece of the eco meter, I would add the green section, and tied to the yellow with the carbon cycle and the nitrogen cycle and the water cycle. There's so much that we train kids on already, but that would fit right in. So big picture down the road, I would love us to have a poster of that we could bring to our events to tie in to educating, to answer those questions.
Well, and Dick, to build off of what you just said, and I was talking to Alexis before the meeting, is that if we have someone that comes up, they're like, okay, answer a question about energy, air quality, zero waste, whatever. And they're like, well, how can I improve my energy use at my house? How can I improve my solid waste habits? How can I make the air around me cleaner? I think it'd be great if ACES had QR codes, not piles of paper and handouts, but a QR code that they can scan that says, okay, it goes to the Town of Superior website, and here are the top 5 things that you can do to improve the air quality around you. You want to decarbonize your home? Here are the top 5 things from cheapest to most expensive to decarbonize your home. And so on. And like I said, I'd like to, especially since it's, hottest, fall on record behind us and how these things are starting to literally hit home now in terms of climate change. I want to make sure we're diversifying our message on all parts of sustainability, not just one leg, which has had its purpose the last few years. And trust me, people still are terrible. I see extra recycling, all this stuff. That's going to be a perpetual problem in life. But yeah, I think we just got to have a more balanced message at some of these events.
Yeah.
And hopefully this pinball machine lasts us a year or two, but I'll show you guys how it works again. So anyways, that was my 4C of today's topic. Anything you guys want to add to that or anything I'm missing?
Great.
And then this is a work in progress. We can keep on building up this, and I can share this with all you guys.
I think there needs to be another, and I don't know how many holes your pinball machine has, I'm not there. But if there's any space for something that's outside of these categories, we at all these events, the wheel, all the questions we ask are having to do with how do we do this or how do you do that or what do you see as this? Even this one I do like is like where superior energy come from. But I think we kind of need to start shifting into messaging that incorporates what people are seeing. What do you see as Superior's greatest steps in sustainability in the last year? What's something that struck you walking around town that you thought, wow, I didn't know we were doing that? Things that are starting to have people kind of give feedback as to what they are seeing or not seeing, and that can help inform in other ways. So it doesn't have to necessarily be on the pinball game, but I do want to incorporate that into our messaging somewhere where we're starting to give people a chance to share back what they're proud of about the work we're doing, not just what they think is actionable.
I like it, Miles. Yeah.
So Miles, one of the things I've seen that demonstrated using that is like a wall mural of a town, with a park, with a school, with a home, and then people have, then we have little magnets or things that we can put up there so they can illustrate what they see, and then you can take a picture of it, and then you take it down, and the next group can come do that. So would that be something that would be visually illustrative of what you're trying to solicit from folks?
As long as they can say what it is, because a map with fixated points just doesn't really give much detail as to what it is that is glaring about that spot.
Yeah.
But if there's a way to message that or collect messages on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, right now, okay, so the reason why there's 5 colors, Miles, is that's the only 5
Sure.
colors in the pinball machine. But
It doesn't have to be the pinball machine. I think just one of the stations would be
yeah,
great to have that, or even like a standalone pedestal, and you can have like a, suggestion box or something like that where people can just write down things they've seen and put it in the box. You can do a drawing from that for a prize or something like that and highlight what that idea is. Give them a quick blurb in the sustainability newsletter, something like that.
yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, it's great.
so that's all I had on that topic, unless you guys got anything else.
Did you share that with all of us?
No, I just shot to Alexis for I can shoot out to you guys. It's not a big deal.
And I wonder, just because you can't discuss via email, if maybe anyone wants to use that like time before the next meeting to work on this, or like how do you want to kind of?
The next meeting?
It is the 13th, I believe, of February. Or, you know, we can put it in our Dropbox. You can work on a shared document together. Like, what do you think the best way to move this forward would be?
All right, so it's a shared document copacetic for collaborating between meetings?
Pardon?
Is a shared document copacetic for?
Yeah,
between
Correct.
meetings?
So we could put it in the Dropbox. It's a little clunkier than Google Drive, but it's what we have. So we could put this in the Dropbox.
Either you or I can.
Yeah.
I can email it to you guys too, so you just have something in your.
I think that would be great, and then we add to it, and then we add it to the agenda next month, and we go over it. And
But it sounds like you guys are gonna take this thing live on the 31st, right? January 31st.
we will.
Yeah.
So,
And you can put me down as definite.
oh, thank you.
And the engineers, like RFID or whatever, Bluetooth this thing to the big digital board.
Wow. Yeah, have them work on the digital display.
And
It's
see,
a softball.
yeah,
Miles, just in case you didn't hear that, I moved to definite for the 31st.
thank you.
Oh, sweet. That was fast.
But I really appreciate the building on ideas and doing things.
Of course, yeah.
And her.
Yeah, those
and her staff,
meetings,
and-
yeah.
But this is great. We talked about this for a few years as well, to have something that's comprehensive to
Are
match.
we on the advisory committee that's engagement on this one?
OSAC.
Ames.
No, yeah, Park and OSAC both do.
We encourage like some competition.
Yeah.
Groups, but obviously we have.
We have, in our work plans that'll be presented Monday night, I've watched OSAC and I've watched Park, and we've got similar crossovers in intersections. So this might be the year that we bring up some friendly
I
conversation.
think Alexis should have some trash options.
Well,
Yeah, I feel like I don't know what it would take to put it together with how busy everyone is, but it would make sense to me to have some sort of collaborative event with at least open space, you know, it's like, because there's so much overlap. At least ideological.
and that's why they usually host National Trails Day. That's an OSAC event, and PARI, our Open Space Ranger, organizes all that, and ACES has tabled at that before, so that's kind of been one crossover.
That's perfect, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
It does, and you know, it does help. I think this year is gonna be our year that we see this collaboration. We're finally all creeping to similar.
Few members of open space were at the meeting last night.
Yeah. Okay,
It went well.
yeah.
All right, well, we have one more topic tonight, ACES chair and vice chair elections. Yeah, we did.
we talked about it, and then I think there was a decision to not do elections yet because there were so many new people when Nikki left, who was the vice chair before, so we've been vice chairless. And I did send out, I don't know if it's helpful, I sent out the descriptions from the committee handbook of what those are, but essentially you get a really good view of what the chair looks like, which is what Jim does every time, goes over agendas, runs the agenda during the meeting, and then the vice chair really mostly is there to fill in when the chair can't make it. So it's pretty low lift, but I'm happy to pull that up if that's helpful, especially for you new folks.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, I'm sorry, I missed the email.
okay. That's okay. Elect her while she's not here.
I think just for full disclosure, I'm technically done June 30th.
Like done?
Done.
He's,
My second term.
You're termed out?
Yep.
Are you sure about that?
I'm on the website unless the town council
Okay.
changes the rules. Yeah, I'm turned out June.
I
30th
had these
this year.
descriptions.
Nah, I'd love to keep going. If there wasn't-
Okay.
It seems like a rule.
Let me talk to Michaela about that.
Go to one to be.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay, here.
Well, I'm a rule. And then Mika, well, her partial term is up at the end of this year. We're assuming she's gonna renew. But she's not going to speak for herself.
Yeah.
Michelle, your first term is up this year as well. Patrick, you're on 2027, John and Miles are 2028. I'm on the website, it's all public information.
Yep, and obviously, if Jim did stay on his chair, as you've seen with Nikki, like you can elect someone, and if you have to step down in June, that could change. We could do elections again. So totally up to you all what you want to do, but I'd like to hear
I'm
the
happy to
description.
continue this role until June, assuming that's the end. I'm happy to let someone else take on this role.
I think you're doing a great job, Jim.
I think you're doing a great job too.
Or Miles.
Appreciate you, Jim.
Okay,
Okay, yeah.
all right. So we're on the vice chair.
Everyone, do you guys vice chair role? Miles?
No, I don't have the time to really commit to the extra.
You're a busy phase right now. Michelle, you got time. John, you just said you're an empty
no.
nester. You got plenty of time.
Yeah, honestly, the vice chair, I mean, Nikki currently, she stepped in
I should
once.
say, yeah, I totally do it. I can do it if we needed to. I am going to be, playing a big role in this fundraising for the, Marshall.
That's okay, I think vice chair suits you well.
You're the chair if you're.
That makes sense. Yeah,
And then I guess if there's the outside chance we're both absent that meeting, I don't know.
I think then I run the meeting.
Then-
It's not a crisis. If you can't make that.
I'm happy to do it. Unless somebody else is doing it.
I move for,
It should be
yeah,
tough.
the vice chair.
Yeah, this would be a tough year to commit to. Daughter's about to go into high school, son's getting ready for college.
Yeah, you have been-
My earlier years here were tough because I was coaching soccer around
His brother-in-law getting married in China later in the year.
Oh, well, my goodness, yes.
And then he's like traveling the world every other meeting, so I don't know if we should go. All right, so whatever you do.
So you need to make official motions. Someone has to motion for both chair and vice chair.
I move that we have Jim be our chair and John be our vice
Sergeant. All in favor?
chair. Aye.
Any nays? No. All right. Done.
You did it.
Perfect.
Congratulations.
Okay,
You both.
can we have a motion to adjourn the
Wait,
meeting?
real quick, can you give a report on how Winter Festival went with the giveaways? Did you give away?
Oh, no, oh, yeah, no,
Yeah, yeah.
sorry, I got it. Okay, a year ago.
I was gonna say that feels like 6 months ago.
I know.
Well, we lucked out, we were inside.
Okay, you were-
Outside.
Did you get enough foot traffic?
Well, the way they set it up is they put like most of the crap stuff inside.
It was not, we had odd people, it was kind of an odd place to be, but people seemed.
I think but I also, on the flip side, heard feedback that people didn't realize there was stuff in the civic space, even though there was some signage out there, so.
I took a lap, I didn't see you guys, I didn't know where it was.
It took me 15 minutes to find the damn. thing.
Yeah, okay, so I think in short, the signage could have been better, that's probably feedback to the town chamber, but it was windy that day, so I wasn't, and it wasn't cold, of course, it's been warm. I mean, it was nice to be inside, and yeah, I think we gave it all away, Michelle.
Nearly. We do have, let's see, I think we have one piece of the wrapping paper and maybe a dozen bags, but people love bags.
Okay, so we might use them for the eco meter. To January 31st and.
People got real jazzed about the bags. I mean, they'll go quick, it's not a ton.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
If you want me to get them from you, I'll get them.
I'll either drop them by your office probably, since I'll get them, I meant to bring them tonight.
Okay. Whatever makes it easy for you.
Yeah, no worries.
Exactly. But thank you for tabling and for giving away. Generally, it was well received.
Oh, yeah, no, it was good.
Yeah, you were doing some recruiting there, I liked it, you did. a good
Yeah,
job.
did you recruit for ACES?
Yeah, I was trying to, trying to get people to come, we can.
Great, thank you.
So do these elections align with like our city council liaisons? Are they gonna do a rotation?
Let's turn over with the council election.
Oh,
So they do that after, so they'll do it after the November elections. And they divvy them up amongst themselves, so it doesn't change until council changes over.
Sorry, back to one more important note, I just remembered, the wheel,
Oh, yeah.
the wheel is, in not.
Oh, boy,
They're waiting on.
okay,
You give it to me, I'll try to repair.
Yeah, we had a like blue tape.
okay.
Repair first. Yeah, because like,
Events are a little hard on the wheel, as you can imagine, the kids like really crank it down, so.
I had good times where like one day we'd spend 40 seconds.
Yeah.
I'm gonna write an after action report and I'll send it to emails for everyone to put it in and then we can officially vote on it next month. But if you have any additional actions to add to those notes for that tabling. I'll send that to
You did a
you.
great job, I guess all that stuff.
Yeah, and it's just nice that after action report is really helpful. I used last year's after action to get started on this one, and it's so easy to pick it up.
Yeah.
Now that we've done it many times, it's really a helpful tool.
Yeah.
To have that after action report.
Yeah.
So,
Cool.
Okay,
So,
perfect.
do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I move to.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Adjourn.
Thank you.
7:16.
That was-